All right, welcome to Chapter 16 Legal Controls and Freedom of Expression. I hope everyone's doing okay. It's been a rough time, I know. We're getting there. It's a stretch run. So, we're going to talk about some aspects of the First Amendment and different forms of government and limitations and freedom of speech and freedom of press and all those interesting things that you have to kind of know if you're going to be in the mass communication field. So let's get started. All right. Now, as the chapter starts off with, they're talking about freedom of the press, and one of the aspects most recently, in the very recent past, is campaign finance a form of free speech? How much money a company can give or an organization can give to, say, a certain political candidate? Is that a certain form of freedom of speech, saying we are allowed to pay this much under, because there's certain rules with how much limitations on individuals, but then other groups and organizations have other rules on how much they can to donate to a said candidate or party. And it wound up going all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said that in a split decision that it was a form of free speech, but now this brings up a whole aspect of our political system, what is being done, what is being promoted, who is getting the money, because now we're in a system there, and I know you're very familiar with, that if you don't have a good amount of money behind you, you're probably not going to get elected. And you're probably not going to get anywhere near coming close to getting elected because of money. This has been a thorn in my side. So I've always been a big believer in campaign finance and all that sort of thing, because now they're becoming beholden to those people who are donating lots of money to these campaigns. And they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, they're doing it for influence. That's what we were talking about, lobbyists and stuff like that before in previous chapters. And now we've got this with campaign finance. And here's a quote here: politicians are dependent upon the funders, but the funders are not the people. And the simple truth is, it's a very tiny percentage of people in this country actually donate money to a campaign, any campaign. And when you start going higher and higher, it's even smaller. And then that's with groups and companies and corporate aspects. This is something we have to think about. And that goes to what is freedom of speech, what isn't. And it all comes down to that little thing called the Constitution. Okay? And there's always all this huge, massive argument about the First Amendment. The First Amendment, where everyone's yelling about, everyone's a scholar on what the First Amendment is. Very few people can actually tell you what it means. Oh, this is what they meant, and this is what they meant. No, we're strict constructionists. Oh, we're loose, and there's all these arguments going back and forth. And everybody on Facebook seems to be a constitutional scholar, and they say, "Oh, this is against the First Amendment. That is," but they always say things that they're not really sure what they're saying. So, what do I have up here? What I did was I have the exact words, what it says in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And it goes as following: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Which means if you have a problem and there is some sort of right, or something is not going the way it should be, your certain rights are not being preserved, and this is your ability as a citizen of this country to have a way to file protests, to file your grievances in a legal, binding way, because you are a citizen. many people don't realize that, yes, there are other free countries across the planet, but not all of them have a constitution, and certainly don't have certain amendments like the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment that specifically say these things. So, and basically, I wanted you to know what it said because you always have people throwing things out there. All right? So now you know what it says. Remember it, learn it, live it. And when people start talking about it, you'll know if they know what they're talking about or not because you just saw it there. Okay, so we're going into that the First Amendment of the Constitution. So Constitution first was ratified in 1788. Was first brought out into the scene. It is designed. Now, understand the First Amendment is designed to protect citizens against the government only. That's what the Bill of Rights is. All right, they're saying you as a government cannot do these specific things or abridge these certain rights of citizens of this country. Plain and simple. Why? Because all of these rights in those first 10 were violated by the British when they were colonies. And they were not happy about that. One, because there are certain rights we have as human beings, and we needed to put them in print, in writing as a contract. And we needed to limit the powers of the government because we had seen personally what happens when you don't have those rights. You are second-class citizens. So this is why they put that in there, because all these things were happening to them while they were colonists for England. All right, that's why those things are in there, and those are basically to say you as a government cannot limit this right, that right, this right. You are not allowed to, because they realized if you do that, then the people will not be free, and that's what the big because we yearn to be free as human beings. We want to be free. We want to grow. And they can only do that in a free society. All right? Now, when you get to a job, this is an important difference. When you get to a job, it's probably going to be in a corporate setting of some sort. The decisions they make in whether they decide to put something out or not put something out is not considered censorship. First and foremost, because it is not a government. It is a privately or publicly owned company that has the right to decide what they put out. So if somebody says, no, you can't put this out, and it's within the corporate structure, it's their right as a company to not allow you to put that out, because you're an employee for that company. You get to use the company equipment, whatever the case may be, facilities, and their money, and you're being paid for it. So it is not considered censorship. Understand that, not if it's when you're in the line of duty of your job, because it's a corporate structure. It deals with government prevention of information or content going out before it gets released to the public. And we'll talk about that later on a little bit, about prior restraint, but I want you to understand the difference between that. All right. As for the Constitution, 1788, it first came out. Strange enough, the freedom of the press wasn't included right away. They didn't think about it right away, which is kind of surprising, especially we've talked about John Peter Zenger. Probably was a little while before they thought about that. But after a little bit of debate, they did throw it in to the wording of the First Amendment in 1791, and it's been there since. And it's basically that freedom of the press makes it essential, because if you don't have a freedom of a free press, then they can't oversee what government is doing, of duly elected officials, people we are trusting, public servants. Remember that. They are public servants. Politicians, a lot of times people get caught up, especially nowadays. as almost a ruling class. They're not a ruling class. There are rules, and I think that's something we have to get back into our mindset that they work for us. They are being paid by us. They are supposed to be doing legislation to help us and their different constituencies to be better, to grow in the best interest of said constituency. So it's us as a form of media to kind of just oversee, monitor what they're doing, making sure they are living up to the sacred trust we have bestowed upon them by voting them in. We're saying we're trusting you, do a good job, don't mess this up. And the people can't know if they are messing up or not if the people in the media or in our mass communication realm don't let them know that. So that's why it's so important. We are an important aspect to this whole thing called freedom and democracy, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. All right. Now, there early on in the country's history, there was a Sedition Act, 1798. There was things going on. Yeah, France helped us in the Revolutionary War, but then there were problems with France and then Barbary pirates, and during that time, and lots of things were going on. We get into skirmishes and tensions around the world, and an act was voted in on, and it basically said you couldn't publish things that opposed a possible war with France and other things going on. It was highly illegal. It was considered unconstitutional. It did expire. Then under Jefferson's presidency, anybody who was convicted during that, they were pardoned because they realized this went against the freedom of the press and freedom of speech and freedom of the press, because they fought so hard to be their own free country, and they dealt with all that stuff from all the problems with Britain, and then this happened. But they made sure they got rid of that, and after that, you didn't usually have things pop up. Sometimes during the course of history, there are fights among what's to be published, what's not, why can this be published, or what's free speech or freedom of the press, or what is not. But this is the first time, so it was talking about sedition, seditious behavior, traitorous, treason. So that's where they kind of got that, and that's something that pops up again. But this is the first time we had a real test of that, and they didn't do so well on that. It expired, but it was a test. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so we're gonna talk about censorship as what's prior restraint. All right. Censorship and prior restraint are hand in hand. Prior restraint is basically government. And basically, the government cannot block speech or publication before it occurs. Like I said, when the company does it, it's because it's a corporate structure. They have the right to do it, but a government can't come in and say, oh, well, we heard you're going to publish a certain story about maybe some corruption going on in maybe it's a congressperson, and we're gonna arrest you, or we're gonna block you prevent you from publishing this. You can't do that. That is completely illegal. It goes against freedom of the press, freedom of speech, so prior restraint. All right, remember those words: censorship, prior restraint. This seems like a pretty important thing to understand. And it's not only for a test question, but it's for what we do. Understanding the limitations of the government when we are trying to publish things, especially if they're true, and people need to find out about it. That's why I take this so seriously. A lot of people have forgotten about this. A lot of things to do what's easy or convenient, or things that, oh, well, if I don't agree with that certain point of view, they should be stopped from saying it. Are there some really messed up things out of there that are true hatred and stuff? Yes, and that is wrong. But then it gets to a point where it comes to where sometimes people are like, well, I don't necessarily agree with a certain point of view, and the certain point of view isn't all that extreme. It's not extreme at all. It's just a different point of view. It's a different opinion. And that's not what this country was based on. The whole point of the country was debate and having the right to point and counterpoint and debating each other on the issues and having the right and the freedom of speech and to say if I have an issue with something, I'm not going to get sanctioned for that. I'm not going to be arrested for it. I'm not going to be hurt or killed because I don't necessarily agree with what is going on. I have the right to express myself without fear of something like that happening, especially when it's just basically a difference of opinion. We're different. We're human beings. So when you start getting into that, it gets to a sticky wicket, and you don't want to go down that road. And it goes to the idea of the marketplace of ideas. The marketplace of ideas is what makes us unique. There's lots of ideas coming out, lots of different choices, and that's not the way it is in a lot of other countries. It's said that under 50% of countries around the world have free speech or some sort of freedom of the press with what they produce. And in this day and time, in this age that we live in today, that it's hard to believe, but that's still less than 50%. So you think about where we are and what we do, and also think about how the corporate structure of what we've created now, and we have these mega media companies. Remember, we've talked about all semester. How does that affect freedom of speech? How does that affect freedom of the press in what is being produced? And so, because remember, from a corporate structure, you're allowed to stop people from producing certain things. And then once again goes to campaign finance and also personal preferences. You see it with the different mega media companies. Who might feel one way towards one issue or might feel way towards another issue. Where does that come in and play? How is that changing? Because that is a very recent phenomenon. And this is talking about freedom of the press and freedom of speech, and is everyone getting the information they need to make the proper decisions? Are these big, heavy topics? Yes. But this is what you're getting into. This is the industry you're getting into. And we the people have to be able to understand, know what this is about, and be protective of that. Be protective of what we create, be protective of the rights, be protective of making sure people, the public, are getting the information they need to know to make the proper decisions when they need to make them, especially when it comes to voting. And there's also the whole thought of the freedom of speech. It encourages disagreement. I talked a little bit about it before. But understand, not only things we agree with are protected. Okay? There's going to be people out there who don't necessarily share all your opinions. This has become a big topic because people, especially for the current, a lot of the current atmosphere, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear that, so I'm going to, and you can walk away if you don't want to hear somebody say it. But do they have the right to say it? Do you need to be protected from hearing it? And is what they're saying sometimes what people say are truly evil and disgusting and vile, and these people should shut up? Do they have the right to? Sometimes they have the right, but I really think it depends on the context, what is being said, where it's being said, and that's why it's our job to take a look at it from a case-by-case basis. And a lot of times things in times when people get upset or there's a lot of emotions running around, it's hard for people to sit back and take a look. Okay, let's look at this. For both sides is like, let's look at the bigger picture. What's this mean for us as a people as a whole? How does this impede on our important rights? What is the situation we're living in right now? Think about what we're doing right now. Yes, it's a health thing, but we still have rights. I'm not saying one way or another, but these are things we have to think about. These are things we have to discuss. Yeah, it's not easy being in a free society. You have to do homework. You have to pay attention. It's not fun, but if you don't want to lose things, and you don't, and you want the best possible world for yourself, your families, and your future generations, you have to be vigilant. Especially, you have to be vigilant as a regular citizen, but even more so as a producer of what we do in mass communication. Okay? It's understanding the First Amendment and how essential to what we do, how essential is and central to it, what we do is essential. It's right in there, and you can't just go past it and go, doesn't affect me. It affects you. It affects so many other people. If we're not doing our job, we can lose everything, absolutely everything, and you won't even know it's being done. That's the scariest part. That's why we should have a good sense of knowledge, a good sense of history, a good sense of the Constitution, what we have, how it is essential to what we do, and we're the ones that really have to understand, because we're the ones who are producing messages out there, be it PR or journalism or advertising. It's understanding this, and that's what makes you better at any one of those tracks. You have to understand it. If you don't do it, it's all just gonna fall apart, and you're not gonna even know what you lost, and everything's gonna fall to garbage. We have to be the protectors. We have to be responsible. We are the ones, like I said, with great power comes great responsibility. We have to be vigilant because we're the ones putting out messages. And it's so easy to just go along with the crowd. Go around with, grumble, 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 grumble. We have to be above it. We have to be smarter. We have to be better. Because we're the ones putting out messages. And we have to keep an eye on what's being put out and what's being said. All right, so there was a case back in the 60s. It was called the Pentagon Papers case. Back in that day, there was a report that was taken from top secret government files, basically documenting the entire relationship with Vietnam, even back into the late 40s, early 50s, before there was the Vietnam War. And it showed a lot of things that were definitely not known to the public. You saw, and it showed an escalation and an evolution of things that probably shouldn't have been going on. And these things got published in major newspapers. And then there was a lawsuit, and basically it wound up saying, the Supreme Court said you have to be free to put out certain news, because once again, this was a government intervention. They wanted to prevent the newspapers from producing this. So that went directly against freedom of the press. So they said you have to be able to publish news. It doesn't matter wherever you got it. If it's the truth, and that was an important aspect because it was the truth. If it was a lie or wrong, then that goes into libel, which we'll talk about too. But, you have to have no censorship. Injunctions, prior restraint. There's that word, prior restraint again. Government preventing something from being produced. Another example is the Progressive Magazine case. Basically, they offered how to make an H-bomb, but they really didn't get into it. They didn't give you, where can you go for these things? How can you get these things? It was generic, and it didn't actually give people working knowledge of how to create it, but they got prevented from publishing certain things. Actually, in the ruling, Judge Robert Warner, he said, he's like, oh well, this is atomic war, so there was national security. But then in the appeals, after a while, it just went away. They stopped pursuing it, and eventually the article was published. But you saw prior restraint, government intervention for something that got put out there, and it didn't cause that publishing didn't cause anything because there was nothing of any real substance that would have caused um, a, a a hydrogen bomb from going off because of that article. Now we're going to talk about next little part. We're going to talk about is what are considered four conventional models of types of government, how the media deals with within that form of government. It's to understand where we live in, how our country and how media works within there, and our role and how it works in other countries. Like I said, less than 50% of countries outside of this of the United States have a free press, a free working press, which is kind of scary if you think about where we live in today, and this being 2020. But you got your four conventional models. You have your authoritarian, your communist or state model, your social responsibility, and your libertarian. And let's kind of get into each. Okay, this is the first of four different government forms out there and how they deal with the media. First is authoritarian. It's very dictatorial. If you remember, this is Kim Jong-un of dynasty of from North Korea. Some would say, "Oh, isn't that communist?" Well, technically they are, but they do some things that are not necessarily communist. Like the succession is going from grandfather to father, then to son. That is not the way it works in most communist dictatorships. It's usually someone from within the party or a leader from there. So from that standpoint, but what they do is they still rule with an iron fist. The all-knowing leader, where total obedience where the media exists to serve the state. This is where we see preposterous things as, fearless leader has gone to the golf course and had 18 holes in one. Yes, things like that were actually said, and they're absolutely preposterous. The things they put out are complete and total propaganda, complete lies about everything from how wonderful the leader is to how evil all these people are, and they're going to come to get you, and isn't life wonderful here? But everyone's scared out of their mind because they know they can be killed in a moment's notice. See, things like there after his father died, they made sure everybody was mourning in the proper way, crying in a terrible way, publicly and terribly. If they didn't, they would disappear because they weren't showing the right mourning. Yes, it's really that insane there. So, also, it's publicly guided by what I call an educated ruling class. This is kind of preposterous. It's the puppets within the system, making sure that the people down the lower rungs of society are put in their place, and have no freedom and just serve the state. And they are lucky they don't come and carry them off someplace or kill them. They're here to serve everybody and but themselves. And if they get out of line, they either die or they get arrested or some terrible aspect like that. Not a very good existence. And the media here works with the government hand in hand. They're there doing their job. Their job is to make sure the people are in compliance and put out the garbage that they put out and continue to be dictatorial to the masses. They promote social stability, making sure you have a socially stable country. so there isn't unrest and dissension among the ranks. Citizens, reporters, they are punished severely if you do question authority. This is where you can be severely beaten or disappear or killed, or your family is then killed or punished and shunned, and it is not a good existence. It is completely dictatorial. You have no rights. Everything is about the leader and the greater good for what we envision the world, and it's just pure unadulterated evil and complete destruction of any human rights. There are no human rights there. You cannot protest. You cannot have an opinion. You can't even say things of a bad way. So we have a lot of issues here, but there are a heck of a lot worse places on the planet to live. So we have the authoritarian style. Then we have the communist style. Now I know a lot of you were not alive when the Soviet Union was around, and the half a good chunk of the countries within the Warsaw Pact, but I was. Um, I was alive for that, and I do remember that. Here in the communist style, the state is the caretaker for everyone. They own all the business. They distribute food. They distribute toilet paper. They distribute everything. Yes, you have free healthcare, but the healthcare is not all that great. You got to wait on lines. It's not good. If you're gonna die of something, you're gonna die. It better not cost that much, or you better not be too old, because then, hey, you're gonna die anyway, because it's not good for the overall society. It is the state central distributors of all your needs. We will take care of you. We will give you jobs, pay you some money, but it's not going to be a whole lot because we make sure we take care of you, but they're really not. And the people that are at the top live like kings and queens who support this system because they're continuing the support and their favorite status, and everyone else is just in a whole lot of garbage and not being given. Yeah, they're being given stuff and having certain things to take care of, but it's not great. Life is not great at all. Um, it's the state of the society is needs over the individuals. So what you want to do, what you want to be, who you want to be, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's okay. Well, if and you do have education, but within that education, they try to figure out how you best fit the broader scheme of things for the country and for that. So they will push you towards a certain destination. They will test you, see what things you are good at, and they push you in that direction, and you don't really have any choice to go in any other direction. And if you try to do that, you'll have severe consequences against yourself or the people that you care about, because you are not putting the country ahead of your own personal needs. Who you become is who they deem you to become. And for some people, that's fine because they find out that they're good at something. They think they're good at it, and okay, I'm happy with this, and I'm okay with that. But as you know, human beings, they might be good at something, but they don't want to do that the rest of their life. You don't really have that choice there. So there is no real upward movement. There's nowhere to go. If you want to become a part of somehow find some sort of talent within the government, and you can do something like that and show some value there, then there's your chance to become upwardly mobile. But then what are you doing? You're completely dominating large societies in there and people's rights, and you might be okay, but there's lots of people who are not, and they're not having that same chance that you were. Suppression of individual goals, freedoms. There is no freedom of the press. There is no freedom of speech. It's all about the government. Yeah, we're taking care of you in these ways. We're making sure you have certain things, but you are paying dearly for them in so many other ways. So it's like there's no such thing as a free lunch. They take it to the extreme. It's all about the government. They would say, "Oh, Mother Russia," and we're talking about the Soviet Union here. There are other countries that have adopted that. Go to Cuba sometime. You'll find it's not so great. They don't have any real choice of products, and their stores are very limited, and you have secret police following you if you're not from the right place, and they're always listening to making sure You're on the up and up, and in their mind, you're not causing dissension. Um, and not a very free society. State ownership of the media. So once again, like the authoritarian style, it's all about the country and the communism, the goal of communism, and there is massive government censorship. Once again, so there is no freedom of the press. There is no government oversight, big monitoring, because they're in charge. And if you don't go along with it, you get in trouble. So yeah, anything that's a different idea, challenges that authority, they are not tolerated. This is where you could go to a gulag to be re-educated, or go to Siberia. That was the big thing. They're getting cast off to Siberia, in jail somewhere. Maybe if you're bad enough in their eyes, bad, quote unquote, bad enough, you can die. Family, once again, could be hurt by that too. So that's what the communist form is. In this day and time that we live in, we see the thing about socialism in this country and how it's growing. This is what we are afraid of. People are saying it's not the same thing, but if you look in the things that they're talking about and the policies, you'll see lots of similarities. No one's taking a tank and bringing it down the street and having guns in your faces. But a lot of you'll find that if you vote for it and it starts happening, you could slide down to an even more restrictive form of government. That's what a lot of people are scared of. We've seen it. We've seen it firsthand. If you go into research, you see the suffering and destruction of what has brought upon so many millions and millions and millions of people. That is what people are scared of. And to say just because we put democratic in front of it doesn't mean anything. If you think about it, North Korea is the Democratic Republic of Korea, the DRK. It's not very democratic there. So just things to think about and to understand where people are coming from and why they are worried about certain things. Because there are certain aspects to it when it's marketed in a certain way. And as you have seen with public relations and how things are marketed and what you can convince people of what to do and how to think in a certain way, and why I always talked about with great power comes great responsibility. That's what people are scared of. That's what people are afraid of because they've seen it. Just because we live in America doesn't mean we can't lose everything that we've earned and we've been given, because we do live in this country. That's what people are scared of. All right, just giving you some food for thought there when you listen to certain things or look at certain things. I'm just saying, take a look, do some research. All right, and there's social responsibilities. It's usually a very much more free society. The United States is considered one of that. Britain is considered that. A lot of times with France and other countries of that nature, there is lots of different aspects of it. So it is more of a free society. Middle ground, provide fair and balanced information. Is called libertarian light. We're going to talk about the libertarian style because they're even less restrictive than social responsibility. There is government oversight. There are certain things that you can and cannot say. Some people would say you're going too far. And then there's a whole other aspect of corporate interest when we talk about certain only a handful of companies owning everything. How does that affect our coverage from a media standpoint, the messages that we put out, the things information that you are getting, how is that affecting freedom of the press and stories being told, and are we being able to do the job to oversee what these politicians, these people who are public servants, are doing. Vigorous debate is encouraged. That's the whole point of a free society. And debate is based on quick one-liners or, oh, they just dropped the mic, they're so wonderful. And they did it in a cool way, or they sound really good, or they happen to hit the right time. Is what they said true? Is it based in fact? Is it based in evidence? Because if it's not based in evidence, then it's really not a point made in the debate that's worth anything. It's just because it sounded good doesn't mean it was had any substance to it. So then it all comes down to flash and substance, and being able to filter that out. So having the debate, having real hard evidence, and making that debate and your point in certain sides of an issue. The good debate is based in fact, as in precedent, is it shows evidence of what's being talked about. It isn't just, oh, a drop the mic moment. That sounded really good. It's not if it sounded really good, was there anything to it? Was there substance? That's a big part of what we do. Is there substance? Is there truth? Is there something, a foundation in that? It's the foundation in anything we do. Also, government's viewed as a tool, not a threat to ensure debate. They're supposed to make sure that opinions are being heard, things are being put out there, and they're making sure, the government's not, there's a list of rules that they're not supposed to do with the Bill of Rights to us as individuals, but they're also supposed to promote debate of different issues, and not just stifle one side because it suits their political means or their power base or their money base. It's about making sure that debate is vigorous, because that's a free society, and the government's supposed to make sure that is getting out there because it's a free society, right? Also, it needs to be watched. We need to watch it. We have to do homework. It's a free society. It's a lot of work. Sorry, that's the part of a free society. We have to pay attention, and we have to do the job, and especially us in the MCOM field, we are the ones really that have to do it with a good amount of faith and respect, and be truly vigilant in what we do. Making sure the government doesn't cross the line is censorship, doesn't violate rights, doesn't do things that are detrimental to the public. Because if they don't know, if we don't tell them, they won't know. If we're not telling them because of personal biases or because of corporate policies that, oh, well, we like them, and so we're going to make sure that they are portrayed in a certain way and these other people are portrayed in a bad way, or that doesn't do any good. You can only go by with what facts that you have. What is the truth? And because there is no my truth and their truth and that truth, and here's the truth. Here's the thing. It's like I say, the truth travels straight ahead. The left or the right like to take it and quote unquote spin it to their own personal belief system or the message they want to make. But then by the time they're done with it, it's not the truth. Truth always travels straight ahead. It doesn't go to the left or right. And when it gets into that point, it's not the truth anymore. Got to remember that. Also, private government owned media. So in our country, we are privately owned. Surprisingly enough, countries like Britain, it is government owned, but only because they have very democratic traditions and rules, and they do have a set of laws that protect certain things like that. They still, even though they're government owned, they have freedom of the press still, which is kind of surprising if you think about it. But it's only because the government is doing it in good faith and protecting those rights. There's nothing there like the Bill of Rights to protect them. So it's one aspect that makes us lucky. And then a very important aspect, the fourth estate. The fourth estate is a term. It talks about the unofficial fourth branch of the government. We, the media, the press, what they do, the three brother official branches, judicial, legislative, executive, they are supposed to be checks and balances on each other. But us as the fourth estate, we're the ones keeping an eye on all of them and telling the people what is going on. Because if we don't tell people what's going on and don't keep an eye on them or put it in a way that colors it one way or another to fit a certain narrative, then we're not doing our job. We're not doing our job, and then the people can't make decisions on who is doing the job the right way or who is doing the job the wrong way. So we, as the fourth estate, are an essential aspect to any free society. Maybe something you've never heard of before, but that's what the media is supposed to be. And unless you have a, a trusting media that doesn't get influenced by either corporate money, um, policies, or preferences, or our own personal biases, then so that's because the only way we can operate is because we have to be vigilant and put out what is true. A democratic society, free society, cannot survive without a fourth estate. You have to remember that. That's why I'm so adamant about that and passionate about that. Because it all goes away if we don't stay vigilant. All right, then the fourth different type of government is libertarian. It is even more free than the social responsibility. There's lots of similarities between the two, but here it's even more. There's even more freedom to it. Individual is first and foremost the top priority. We are libertarians are very suspicious of government. When I say extreme government limitations, the limitations are on the government, not the government limiting people, but the rules that limit the powers of the government to be able to do certain things. And many times it could be like defense, certain things like that, other aspects like roads and stuff like that, certain things that local jurisdictions couldn't really handle. So there are certain things, a handful of things that they believe the federal government needs to taken care of, but it's not a whole lot. And that's even with taxes. Some are so extreme they don't believe there should be any federal taxes. For the longest time in this country's history, there wasn't any. That's only a relatively like 20th century thing that popped up when you first started seeing that. So believe it or not. So that's what I mean by extreme government limitations. Is much more limited government in there. The economy is free market, laissez-faire, hands off with that. So there's not much government oversight outside of criminal things, with like certain labor things, with child labor or those kinds of things, which makes sense. But there's lots of other laws that aren't in there at all. With that might be in bigger government or more socially responsible forms where they may feel they need to do things about certain aspects of business that others in this form would be considered more intrusive and not allowed. It is totally private media on that, so owned by people and not in any way, shape, or form influenced by the government. So no, and also not just the media, but free speech. You can say whatever you want, basically, and in this. So this might upset some people where they believe certain things should not be said. In this model, it's like you might not like it, and in that case, you may say change the channel or walk away, or because that's the mentality in that. Some people are for that. Some people don't feel as comfortable with that. Remember, it's libertarian. It's about the liberty of individual rights. And then there's the vigorous government criticism, and there's no retribution with that. So you can say, I don't like this person, or this president, or this governor, or this whoever is not my cup of tea. I don't like them. And you have no retribution for that. Basically, so you're seeing lots of debate, lots of criticism in there. Another aspect that is a little different from there is free social policies, meaning there's things there usually for their platform is lots of times the legalization of drugs, all drugs. They say it's a person's right to do what they want, and you can and let them do it. And if something bad happens, that's on them. Also, prostitution is considered one. Now, I haven't really gotten into the whole aspect of human trafficking with that aspect. I don't really know their policy when it comes to that. They do have laws, and there are certain laws that are constant, so it's not like the Wild West or anything like that. So there are lots of laws for things of crimes like that. So it's not there's no anarchy going on, but so that's the different thing about them. They're in some ways you might find them to be conservative, but then when you look at the social policies, you'll find them to be quite liberal with that. So that is the difference in today's world and the world that has been presented to you, to what the way from a political standpoint where we live in. So it's a little bit of both. Some people like some parts, some people like other parts, and it all depends. Another aspect of this is there's not, since it is limited government, you're not having a whole lot of social programs and stuff like that. So people are basically either on their own, or they want to have it could be private industry doing these things, or religious institutions dealing with these things, or public organizations or grassroots campaigns, which they're all people are allowed to have and all that, 'cause it's a libertarian thing, and they take care of all those things, and that's what they promote. You want to do that, by all means, create that, do that, and that's where you come at. So that's another aspect some of you might not be comfortable with. So you'll find they have a variety of different things. Very much very freedom, but there's some aspects that some people might feel more comfortable with having some controls over certain things. I mean, that's each individual. If you don't know, this is Gary Johnson. He was a presidential candidate a couple times, the Libertarian. So he was also governor of New Mexico for a little while. This is Luxembourg. It's a small country in Europe. It's considered one of the more libertarian countries in the world. We are one of them, and we're usually in the top 5. Canada is usually there. I've seen some other countries out there, and it kind of varies a little bit. But yeah, so I'm just giving you a reference of what you're looking at there. So yes, 4 very different types of government, and 4 different types of how media is utilized in those governments. Now we're going to go into some unprotected forms of expression. One is seditious expression, Schenck versus United States. This is where we establish clear and present danger. Basically, Mr. Schenck was a socialist during the World War I, and he was distributing socialist flyers, and apparently this was causing a lot of protest and a lot of violence, and now, I mean, you could talk about the things with that, but it was causing lots of very difficult actions, and people were getting very, very upset, and were coming to the forms of inciting violence in a way. Basically, it was considered. He got arrested for 10 years for that, and got a sentence of 10 years. U.S. Supreme Court actually enforced it, and saying it was a clear and present danger. It wasn't free speech. It's like yelling fire in a crowded theater. You can't just do that, and this was basically causing real big issue at the time. So we have an example there with that. Also, copyright infringement. This is something you have to understand when you're dealing with what we deal with. Can't just take anybody's property and just use it and claim it to be your own. I know you understand that, but there are certain rules with copyright. People who create stuff should be protected for being known as the people who created it, for published or unpublished work. Now, here is the official copyright rule. It was established in 1978. It's changed over the years, but this is the generic rule. Now, there are other rules, but for you to understand this, you should probably hear this, listen to this, and take note, because this seems like an important piece of information to know. Copyright rule, okay? The general copyright rule is the life of the author, right? However long the person who created it, however long they live, plus an additional 70 years after their death. All right, that is the general feel since 1978. So the life of the author plus an additional 70 years after they die. Now, there are other rules, just to let you know, but this is the main one I want you to understand. But there are other rules, such as people who do anonymous or use pseudonyms, fake names in their work. They've got some extra time there. Then pre-1978, like I told you, this is when this was established, the 70 years thing. There's rules that are all different there, and then work for hire, which is a little different, and there's some numbers there. But this is the one I really want you to understand. So the life of the author or creator plus an additional 70 years after their death. So someone lives to 100, and okay, so whatever, from the time they create it till they're 100, and then 70 years after they die, in general, and it's still copyright. Important to understand when you're creating things. Another unprotected form of expression is libel. Basically, libel is the intentional publishing or broadcasting of defamation of a character that can cause defamation of their name, does cause some sort of defamation to their reputation. Either they might have lost a job or standing within in society from their good name, and basically it wasn't true, but they were still put out. Now you're going to say, oh, well, broadcast. Why is it broadcast? Because it's not written. Libel is broadcast because of the fact that it is at such a the availability, the audience is so big. When you think about a newspaper or television or radio, the audience is much bigger than, hey, I'm going to tell you this story about this person. That's considered slander. So if it's spoken, it's slander. If it's printed or broadcast, it is libel, and it has to do with the audience. Because if you think of one person, then tells another person, and tells another person, it takes a little while longer, and it's a spoken thing. So it's considered libel, all right, when it's in broadcast. It is hard to prove. And with cases with public figures, that's why a lot of times you see things on the grocery store checkout line, and how do the National Enquirer and like the Gold Globe get away with this, because it's so hard to prove these things, and there's probably some aspect of truth to it in some way, even though it might be very, very small. But this is unprotected, because you can't just say things about people. That is not a protected form of expression, because you're hurting other people and you're just lying about them. Because, like I said, great power comes great responsibility. We have a lot of power. We have to wield it carefully, and there are certain laws. I can't just say a bunch of incorrect garbage about people just because I don't like them, because it can cause them lots of damage to their family and friends and stuff like that. And people still have a right, still have individual rights for that good name, and right to privacy too. So that's important. You want to protect that. Other defenses, qualified privilege. This is a time when reporters are on the job, say they're doing a press conference with a government official, a mayor's office or something. Maybe the mayor's office got something wrong in something, what that they said, and then they reported it, but they didn't know it was wrong, or it was false, and the reporter is protected because they were doing their job. It was within good faith. Even in this example, maybe the mayor's employee got it wrong accidentally. Maybe they were doing it on purpose, and then they have to deal with that. But the reporter who was reporting on that doesn't get in trouble for that, because though it was incorrect information, they didn't know it. It was just something that happened, and you can't be sued for libel for that. Rule of opinion and fair comment when you're getting stories. There's got to be lots of issues out there. Not everybody's going to agree with it. Sometimes people are going to say some nasty things, which I'm sure you're used to. And people have their opinions. And to show dissension as different parts of the story, you'll put that out there, and you'll publish that to show that. You cannot get called for libel on that because it's their opinion. It's a person's opinion about said issue or said person or whatever the case might be, and so it's not libel. It's that person's opinion, and then we call with satire, comedy, opinions. Comedy is having issues for another lots of issues. But satire is basically part of comedy, making fun of ourselves, making fun of institutions, making fun of people who are in power. It's how it always would be, how it always was, even way back when, and still continues to be this today. You wouldn't have Saturday Night Live or Trevor Noah with what he does in the Daily Show, and without it. And people are allowed to have opinions. They can say, "Oh, I don't like this person or the job that they're doing, or I don't like the way they're talking," and you're allowed to make fun of that. It's not libel. Saturday Night Live would have nothing to do if they didn't have this freedom to do that. And also opinions expressed in reviews. How many times you see a review on a movie or a play or something like that? That's their job. They've dedicated their life to this art form and reviewing it and what they like, and they want to share that with people. And that's a job it's been for many years. And opinions, if they don't like it, they don't like it. It's their right to not like it. And you can't say that because it's libelous. It's not libelous. They just didn't like what you produced. It's their right to do that. So and they have to put that in there because sometimes people be getting libel lawsuited all the time. It's like because people don't like certain things, all right, and it's an opinion, and we all have them. So that doesn't fall within their libel. Also, another unprotected form of expression is obscenity. Basically, in Miller versus California, 3 criteria need to be met. Average person would find that material as a whole appeals to a prurient interest. What does that mean? Lascivious, highly sexualized, just truly almost depraved in a way, a depraved thing. The material depicts or describes sexual content in a patently offensive way. And the material as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Now, you will see that this is all very open-ended because when they made this decision, they realized in 1973 that society might be different in 2013 or 2020 in this case. I just went with 13 because it was 40 years after that, or 2023, and they realized people evolve. There are different sets of different communities that feel a way about one set of things as another group in another area might feel, or from a certain background might feel. So they kept it very open-ended. They didn't have hardcore, very stringent details in this, and that's because they realized people evolve. They realize that people are different and they have different viewpoints. So it's and there's a difference between obscenity and something that's called indecency. Obscenity is illegal. And lots of times you'll have that with child pornography. That goes without saying. But then there's other things that may at one point been considered obscene, but that are not now, especially when you're dealing with the internet and content you can find on there. And so you got to think about that. Also, there are sometimes there have been cases when certain jurisdictions around the country and dealing with certain gentlemen's clubs, I'll leave it at that, where they got limited in what they could produce, and they weren't allowed to be unclothed. And what they would do is sometimes they would produce something such as I've heard as like a Shakespeare play appear. So they're doing Hamlet, but all the actors are not wearing clothes. They're not doing anything sexual of any nature. They're actually acting out the play. I don't know how well they acted it out. but they would actually act out the play, say the lines, and do the action in the play. But they would do it without any clothes on. So that's how they would get around that, because it's artistic value. Right? You can't get any more artistic than William Shakespeare. So you'll find different ways around that, and things like that have been done in the past. So dealing with obscenity, what is obscene, what isn't obscene, and then indecency, which is different thing where that is allowed, but it's allowed only during, especially when you're talking about broadcast TV or radio, broadcast TV or radio between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., which is a safe harbor. That's why you don't hear cursing until after 10 p.m. on broadcast. If you do, some never have it, but if you do, it does get in there. It's usually after 10 p.m. I talked about the whole thing with Janet Jackson, and if that halftime show was after 10 p.m., they wouldn't have gotten in trouble. But because it was around like 8:30 or whatever, sometime around 8:30 or so, for the halftime, a lot of people saw it, so that's why he started seeing fines with that. So, and that was about indecency, not obscenity, indecency. So obscenity, another aspect of this that we deal with. And then right to privacy. People have a right to be left alone. Okay, if you want to be a hermit and live in a shack in the woods, it's your right to do that. This goes with celebrities. They have a right. I mean, they're a little different because they are in the public eye. So when they are out in public, I'm not talking about going to restaurants or clubs or anything like that, where they're actual businesses or establishments, but out on the street, walking down the street, they have the right to be. Is it annoying? But they have the right, yes, but if they have the right because it's in public that they're out. That's why you see people, the paparazzi, outside of the club, not on private property as they come out. That's why they're allowed to shoot video of them or take some pictures of them. So that's an aspect of it. But people in general have a right to be left alone. Their name, their image, what they do, from becoming public property. So if you remember a little while ago, Erin Andrews, ESPN and now Fox anchor, she was caught. Somebody got some pictures of her being undressed and video of her through a peephole at a hotel room, which is very disgustingly creepy. Well, you go into that kind of extreme, but she sued and she got rewards for that. That person got into a lot of trouble because they went into a peephole. She was in her hotel room, expecting some sort of privacy, and they had to go through a peephole. But that's with technology the way it is today. You have to be careful. I know with drones and stuff like that. There's still privacy issues with that. There's that, there's certain they're public figures, but they still have a right to a private life. One other example is Hulk Hogan, former WWE Hall of Fame wrestler. He, a couple of years ago, got into some trouble for saying some racist things, which was really, really bad. But there was also things of him having sex with a friend's wife, and apparently that's what they do, and that's the thing that they partake in as friends. But that, once again, it's in the bedroom. That's their own private thing. And Gawker, it was this website that did stuff of this nature. They got sued, and he took a lot of money from them for that. But part of that problem, he was. In that whole thing, he lost money because of it. He lost his status as actually a Hall of Famer, and his contract with the WWE was almost called a Legends contract. Lots of things, so he lost. So it showed that their privacy. Well, one, they somehow got video of that, and they put that out, and they weren't entitled to do that because it wasn't theirs. It was a private thing, and also. That aspect hurt his image. Now there was the whole other aspect of it, which was bad, and I thought was disgusting too, with the whole racist thing talk that he was talking about. But the problem wasn't then it was the fact that they somehow got a hold of that video and put it out there, and it wasn't for public consumption, and nobody posted it out. They just got it somehow underhandedly and brought, into the bedroom of what they did. And that was his right to privacy. We are, as a media, granted very wide protections, but there are rules. You can't, when I go out to shoot on a story, I can't just go strolling up on any business and just shoot right there. There are certain rules, like I have only out of the street, or maybe there's a place on the sidewalk that says, okay, here's the property line. And you got to pay attention to that. So there are rules with that there because of private property reasons. And so you don't have carte blanche on doing that. And we, every TV station, radio station, online stuff, whatever the case may be, from a journalistic standpoint, we have our own guidelines and policies, and they usually, from a corporate standpoint and also from a jurisdictional standpoint for a given area, follow those rules and guidelines, and that's something you have to know when you go to any new job for something like that. How does it work? That's part of your responsibilities. Also, we have to deal with the First Amendment versus Sixth Amendment. Of course, we got free speech and press with what we deal with, but also the Sixth Amendment, people having guaranteed a speedy and public fair trial by an impartial jury in an effort to get the story. And it was a great story, and you have to make sure that people are still getting their first shake. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, we talk about the court of public appeal. That's though it is a thing, it's not really a thing, because that person has a right to a free, fair trial. Everybody has that right. It's in the Constitution. You may not like those people, but they still deserve that fair trial. And if you're going to get a fair trial, you have to have a jury of their peers, an impartial jury that doesn't care either way. So, yeah, you have to watch out with certain coverage with that. And are they getting people that don't know anything about it? That's why if things are so overblown, they have to move venues to go to a different area to cover to get a jury for a trial, because everybody in that area heard about it, and they can't get an impartial jury. So and that's another aspect. Are people getting their proper rights of innocent until proven guilty, as opposed to a story? Sometimes you have things called gag orders. These usually place on lawyers, witnesses within a given case. You don't usually have that with reporters and journalists in this country. I do have them in other countries, but free press and stuff like that. The Constitution prevents that, but that is, if you do work internationally, know that that might be in a country that allows that to have gag orders. You're not allowed to say anything. So be careful if you are working in an international way. You might know the laws, have to know the laws. And then there's also shield laws. What the shield law is it protects reporters. You have lots of times you have stories. It could be corporate, it could be criminal, it could be government, whatever, whistleblowers. And you're not going to get whistleblowers if people can't say, oh, I want to be anonymous. I want the information to get out there, but I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to get threatened, because people's livelihoods, their lives, their safety, their family safety have all been threatened. You're talking about some very serious issues there, and reporters need some sort of protections to be able to protect these people, to get out, to protect their names, but still get the information out. And there are things called shield laws. There's over 30 of them in 30 states, and D.C. that currently have them. The United States is for the entire country, hasn't officially adopted it. It is still kind of up in the air, under debate of whether to do that or not. I think it will continue to be up for debate and one day be brought up officially, but we're a little busy right now with some other things, but I'm sure it will pop up again in the next decade or so. Look out for it. So shield laws. They protect reporters from having to reveal sources. That's pretty important to understand. Understand that. Shield laws will protect reporters from having to reveal sources. Understand that. Please, you may see that someplace again. Hint, hint, hint! And then finally, we're talking about another aspect that goes back to the whole courts system. And we've become much more, it's become much more common incidents. It goes back to free trial and all that. But cameras in the courtroom. Remember, the first time we really saw that, and this was the first of many different trials of the century. That seems to pop up every so few decades or so. And the first one in the 20th century was the trial of a man called named Bruno Hauptmann. He was a German immigrant, and he was accused of kidnapping and then eventually murdering the less than 1 year old son of Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh was a famous American aviator. He was considered an American hero because he was the first Spirit of St. Louis. Early in his life, he took a transatlantic flight from Europe to America on Long Island. A solo flight, and that was a huge deal at the time. So that's where he was a American icon, and this happened, and this was in New Jersey, and this gentleman was accused of kidnapping and murdering his very young son, and this is where we first started seeing cameras in the courtroom. That before this, it hadn't been a thing, but it gained so much notoriety that apparently this caused a trial that was not considered fair, because people were playing to the camera and things, and it was called like media circus. I know you're used to it now. This is where we first really see it, because cameras were never really allowed in the courtroom. And remember, it's the 1930s, and still cameras, and then you have motion picture cameras too. And it was a big story because it was Charles Lindbergh. So this is where we first see that. There was exculpatory evidence, but from it being such a circus, Mr. Hauptmann did die. Did get convicted, and he did die for a sentence. But there's also cameras in the courtroom. That's a big topic, because we talk about fair trial, freedom of the press. What are we getting in there? All states right now, they do allow cameras in the courtroom, but it also depends on the specific jurisdiction, the specific state. There's certain rules and guidelines. And then, of course, it always has to do with that specific judge. The judge at any moment in time can say, all right, no cameras are allowed in this courtroom, even though technically by state law they're allowed. The judge has discretion to say, yeah, I don't want any cameras in the courtroom, and people have to follow by that. In those cases, a lot of times you'll see court sketches. That's when you see court sketches. I'm sure you've seen them lots of times. You'll have reporters sitting in there that still do their reporting and listening, and you'll have a court sketch artist, and lots of television stations will take those. And I've cut quite a few court sketches over the time during my career, so it's been very common practice. Federal courts, they do limit some coverage in there. It depends on it. The Supreme Court does not allow cameras in its courtroom. There was an exception that they allowed an audio recording during Gore versus Bush during the recount there, and it got to the Supreme Court, and they realized the importance of the historical nature of that case, so they allowed an audio recording only, and that was a massive deal, and they haven't allowed things since then. So anything you hear are just reports, and they report afterwards, and you don't have any electronic recordings going on in the Supreme Court. So once again, the Sixth Amendment and cameras in the courtroom, it all depends on the specific judge and the specific jurisdiction. Even though technically all 50 states are allowing it, you got to look into the rules and the laws in that specific case, because we have to protect the rights of the individual, once again, because everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Okay, that's it for now. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. Part 2 will be coming soon. Stay safe. Be good. We're getting through this, all right? We're winding down, so just keep pushing, all right? Just keep pushing. We'll get through this, all right? Thanks. Bye.